Are you gonna like? That's not basket weaving. You're just gonna make blankets, maybe a purse.
This one's actually for wall tapestries, so it'll
Oh,
hang. But I'm
whoa.
pretty sure you can also make a blanket using it.
I mean, I think if you make like a wall tapestry and just put it on top of your body, then it's just a blanket.
Then it's a blanket.
Yeah.
I'm on my way, and I won't be late, 'cause everything that's happening is in perfect time. And though we may not know just where this bus will take us, but you're not alone with your love.
Welcome to the inaugural episode 1 of the Outside Perspective Show, where we talk to Texans not in Texas. Today's first guest, number 1, is Sarah. Now you still don't talk. Now you get your introduction. Natalie, how do you know Sarah?
Okay, so Sarah has been teaching abroad for several years now, first in Myanmar during the Rohingya Muslim crisis, and now in Bangkok, in Thailand at an international school. So she's had kind of different viewpoints, and while the coronavirus developed, she's been in Bangkok and had to kind of decide whether to stay or whether to come back. So welcome, Sarah. We're so excited to have you.
Yay.
Hi.
Now you can talk.
Okay, cool.
How are you?
Great. How are you guys?
We're hanging in, one step at a time.
Can you tell us a little bit about what teaching in international school is like, in general?
Yeah. So I taught at a pretty wealthy international school that only went from babies to about 5th grade. So working with babies, it was a lot of like playing games, teaching English. I don't know, working at like a normal school, but just a much wealthier group of people.
How wealthy are we talking? Like millionaires, thousandaires? What kind of cars do they drive? How many mistresses do the husbands have?
Okay, so they had cars in Thailand where everyone has a motorbike, and they had multiple nannies per kid. That kind of wealthy.
Dang.
Yeah.
So that's where you were when Rona hit, when Pandy started, right?
Yeah, when the Rona struck, yeah.
When the Rona struck. Talk us through that moment when it came real. I liked, we talked a little bit before, and your little teaser stories were insane to me.
When did it hit you?
Okay, so first time it hit, a little bit of background. My international school was like a Chinese school, so a lot of our students were Chinese. So after the Chinese New Year, over half of our kids had just come back from being in China, visiting family, traveling all over, living their best like New Year life. And then we heard that it had like broke out in Wuhan, and we panicked. All the teachers were like, all of our kids are coming back from China. What are you going to do? But they placed all like the safety measures. All the other Thai schools were placing like the masks and taking temperatures and checking passports and everything. But it became super real when they came and grabbed my favorite little baby out of my classroom and just whisked him away. Didn't tell me anything, just took him out. I had to go like hunt down the front office people and be like, what happened to my favorite baby? What have you done with him? And they were like, his sister's out of school where a teacher had corona, so we're taking him away. And I was like, what do I do? So we sprayed the babies and the teachers and everything in our room with hand sanitizer and just panicked the rest of the day.
Who took what the name of the kid? What is the name of your favorite baby, and who took the kid away? Was it the military, scientists?
Yes, it was like the CIA of Thailand. No, the front office got a phone call from my sweet Bonbon, his mom, and the panic ensued, and they came and just like snatched him up, put him in a room all by himself until the parents came to get him.
That's so sad.
So he just thought, yeah, and I got to go take him his lunch, and I was like, here, my sweet bonbon. And they were like, okay, go wash your hands and like sanitize yourself. I was like, okay.
You guys really just treated him like he had it already.
Well, they panicked because it is a private school. I think they were probably more liable if everyone else in the class got it. You know what I mean? Like, parents with money can have the power to kind of come after you.
So they placed him like in quarantine at the school as soon as they found out, correct?
Pretty much, yeah. They put him and another student whose older sibling also went to that school in the same little like nurse's room, and just kept them there until their parents came.
Dang. Was he scared? Was Bun Bun scared? Or did he take it like a champ?
He's like a little sweetheart. I think he was mostly confused and thought he just got to go play in a room with another little kid. So he was like, yeah, it's cool.
Gosh.
He's only like 2, so I don't know if he fully comprehended it.
So what was your next step at that point? Also, I couldn't imagine any like USA Karen being like, yeah, check my passport, it's fine.
Yeah, seriously.
Like props on parents for being like, yeah, we're willing to disclose this information.
Yeah, again, I think it's because they're a private school, they can make their own rules. We did have a few parents though, like come after the school and they're like, we have no fever, my kids are fine, we weren't even in the area. And the school was like, look, if you get people sick, like we're liable, you're liable. But it did cause a lot of like tension between the parents and the school, which was just the beginning of the tension. But after that, we just were significantly more careful. And I taught babies, so putting masks on babies every day and making sure they didn't take them off, and like making sure they washed their hands with actual soap and like didn't lick each other or but I think we only had a class for about a week after they took him away before they shut us down.
What do you mean they shut you down?
They sent all the kids home and no kids were allowed to come to school anymore, and so just the teachers and assistants came in to create an online curriculum for me.
Oh, I see. What does an online curriculum for a 2-year-old look like?
Ooh, it is not a real curriculum because like teaching babies, it's like play.
Right.
So we had to create at-home play activities for parents to do. It was hard.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Did parents give you guys any feedback? Because I couldn't imagine having to work, but then also having to like engage with my child.
Yeah, so luckily, again, a lot of these kids come from like fairly wealthy families, so they had nannies or they had families living there. But a lot of parents were like, we pay a lot for this school. It's like a glorified daycare and you're not watching our kids anymore. So they were super upset and wanted their money back, but because we were following what the Thai government had said, they couldn't get their money back. So it was one of my students, actually, their father was like a high-power lawyer in Thailand, and he threatened to sue the school. And I was like, ooh, that's my baby. Okay.
You're like, oh, I don't know that.
Right? I'm sorry.
It's like, and also it's like, as an educator, this is not glorified daycare, man. I'm in here teaching the next generation. There's kind of a little slap on the face, a little light on me.
Yeah.
What
It's really important for little kids. Like, people do not appreciate that enough.
No, and we had a few parents be like, I can't teach my kid. And we were like, ooh, your baby's a handful. That's your fault.
Yeah, that's so true. Then what do you think we have to do with them every day?
Right.
What? So Bon Bon is escorted off the premises.
Picked up by parents, yeah.
Okay, you have your word for it. I have mine.
Yeah, hazmat, just like in a bag.
Yeah. Well, so when did it go? So then you have a week, you create an online curriculum. What happens then? Does the whole country go on lockdown? Do you guys, do you keep online? What happened? What was Pandy life like?
So the schools, I think, were one of the first things to kind of shut down and say, like, all right, no kids in schools. It's just going to spread quicker. Take a lesson, America.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, right? So they shut down schools, and then they said non-essential workers like don't come in, so they shut down pretty much all the like social activity things you could do, and the only thing that was open was like restaurants, pharmacies, doctors' offices, things like that. But the transition with how quickly they went and like how efficiently the places that were open became immediately like sanitized. Like grocery stores had like those plexiglass things up almost immediately. One of the things I had mentioned that came later on was these big like sanitation tubes.
Yes.
Yeah, once like that came later once things started to slowly reopen, but they had these huge sanitation tubes and things that were open. There was hand sanitizer. They also had a tracking device once things opened. You had to sign in with your phone, and you had to sign in and sign out of every store. So like you'd sign into the mall, you'd go to a restaurant, you sign into that restaurant, sign out. Sign into the pharmacy, sign out. Sign into the store, sign out, and then sign out of the mall.
Is that so they can like do like contact tracing in case they get...
Yeah, and so like ideally you'd get a text to your phone number if you were in an area that a person who'd been like diagnosed with COVID, you'd get information about that. But
was that like a government app? Google? iPhone?
I guess it was just like an app, like the first few weeks it only came up in Thai. So I was just like pushing buttons and I was like, I'm here, and like let me in. And then they finally had a translation to English, and it asked you to like sign in, and then like rate the stores that you were in. Like, are they clean? Are people wearing masks? Are people staying away?
That's wild.
It was like super smart, but I get why people would be against it. Like, you don't need to know where I'm at 24/7.
Right.
So
Smart.
why does it matter, you know, if there's a pandemic and like we're recognizing that by coming into contact with someone who has it, that's how you're going to get it too. Like that just blows my mind at how efficient that is. But
Yeah,
also, I can't imagine it here.
They were so fast. And also, like, from what I've heard, people were, like, semi-afraid of the government and also, like, trusted their government to do what was right, which I think, like, had a lot to do with why people followed that. And also there's more of, like, a communal mentality out there. Like, I'll do what's good for you if you do what's good for me, instead of, like, I'll just do what's good for me.
That's a weird concept.
Of, like, community?
Yeah, community. I don't know what... I'm not familiar with that. I want to ask one thing though. Can we talk about the tubes, because you talked about it a little bit when we talked originally, and it blew my mind. Yeah. Tell us about the tubes.
Okay, so the first tubes that I saw were at like the really, really nice, like big touristy malls, and they were huge. Like you could probably fit like maybe 3 or 4 people this way, and then maybe like 3 or 4 people this way. Okay. But it had like little doors, and they just stayed open, and you walked in, and a ring of like sanitizer just went like shh, and then you walked in, and you were clean, clean.
Right, you were fumigated.
Yeah, pretty much. You just like felt better.
That's so weird.
Did that irritate you at all? Because I would be annoying to have like alcohol sprayed on me.
It was almost like refreshing because it's like real hot out there. So you were just kind of like, oh, a nice alcohol mist. Like,
That's what I needed.
Yeah, exactly.
Was it in any way, did it remind you of when you go to the optometrist? Is the optometrist the eye people?
Yes.
The eye doctor, right? If you're going to go to the eye people and they say, put your eye here, and then you have to wait for them to spray you. Did you have like that anticipation in before? Was it like that?
Thing?
Yeah.
No, but it was kind of cute, the confusion. So people would walk in and be like, and then it would just go shh and go, oh, okay. And then they'd walk through. So I guess kind of like that, yeah.
Like yeah. And then it's so weird.
It was so cool though.
Are the tubes still there?
So I asked my friend who's still out there, and she said, no, the tubes aren't there anymore because they've got it under control. They don't need them. They probably stored it for like the next pandemic.
Send him over here.
Yeah, I know, right?
Right. We could.
Did you ever see somebody walk up to the tube, recognize that they were about to get sprayed, and then leave?
No.
No,
there was more so like a line, and like everyone just very nicely, orderly, just like sat there and like waited for their turn. They're like, I understand that I need this. And in some of the other like malls or grocery stores, they had ones just for your feet, which I thought was sort of interesting. But you just like stepped on this like squishy, sanitized carpet. It sprayed your feet while they took your temperature, and then you just walked in.
They were taking your temperatures everywhere then.
Everywhere.
That's wild to imagine here. Like there's just no way that would. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll be wrong in a month. But that's weird to see, to hear
It
about.
was even like the 7-Elevens. You'd go to get like a late night beer, or like a candy or a ramen, and they would be like, "I'm sorry, like no mask, no fever, you can't come in. Like we have to check you."
Damn.
This is literally everywhere.
It's jarring. I wish we had that.
It doesn't seem like the asymptomatic nervousness wasn't a huge deal. Like people just knew if you're feeling any bit down, stay home.
Pretty much, yeah. I think it did get to a point when we were in like lockdown, where I know people were, I guess smaller places were kind of opening things up and not necessarily following the rules because like financially they couldn't afford it. But yeah, no, I think most people were like, oh, if I have a fever, I literally can't get into any building. So, and most people, like everyone wore their masks. It was hard to have, I don't know, coughed or sneezed on someone and not have everyone been like, shut and get out right now. So you just didn't leave your house.
How
Honestly,
long? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I went thrift shopping like a couple weeks ago when I had my cough and my cold. And so like I was in the store like, just trying to like hold it in because I didn't want anyone to look at me. But I should have stayed home.
We all have to, do what you can. But stay home most of the time. But every now and then, it's okay. Maybe it's okay because otherwise you'll go cuckoo. You'll lose it. A walk in the neighborhood is fine. I wanted to ask, how long were you under Pandy lockdown?
Like hardcore.
Yeah, personally, because they're not under lockdown really anymore. You said they have it really under control, right?
They do. They're only locked down right now is they're not like they're only letting certain foreigners into the country. Like if you're a professional, so like no tourism right now. But I think we were in like lockdown, like hard lockdown. Nothing was open for about a month and a half. And then it like slowly started easing. Like every week they would open a few more things. And the day I left that night, they opened the bars to serve alcohol. And I didn't get any. So sad. But yeah, they had like a by-week plan.
So while you were in lockdown, you were totally sober. You had no alcohol.
Yes, that first like our hard lockdown, that first month and a half, became like a dry country. They were like no parties, no fun, no shenanigans with friends, no alcohol. And it was real hard.
Drinking here went through the roof. Yourself because people were just like sitting around, had nothing to do. I
watched the takeaway margaritas become a thing while I was sitting there with my no alcohol.
Yeah, Taco C started doing take home margaritas. It's pretty good. Honestly, I think it's here to stay. That's a nice win.
Just keep getting them drunk. just fuck them all up.
Yeah.
So did you find a way to sneak around the rules? Did you manage to smuggle in a beer?
Burned through my first whatever bottles I had at home, and then luckily was still going to school. Luckily or unluckily, was still having to go to school to create the things for the kids. And so some of the teachers and I asked like the Thai staff who like know the ropes and stuff, like, hey, we're sad, like we would love alcohol. Help us please. And they were like, yeah, like we have our shitty stuff here, like do you want some? We were like, yes please, or just help us.
They smuggled some stuff in for you.
They did at our school.
In the school.
No babies were present. It was just adults.
Yeah. That's so funny. Was it beer? Vodka? Absinthe?
ooh, that's a bit intense. No, I just got the beer. They did have some liquor, but it was like very questionable. Couldn't read a label, didn't know what it was. Wasn't about that life.
Right.
Beer's like the next level up from kombucha. Like, you're fine. Great. And then you are in the States now, right? So
Yes.
What prompted that move? How did that kind of come to be in the middle of the pandemic?
Yeah, middle, like peak pandemic. So one of my family members, like immediate family members, got diagnosed with cancer. And like on the daily, I was getting updates and emails from the embassy, the US embassy in Thailand, saying, if you plan on leaving the country, you need to leave now. Like, you might get locked in Thailand or you might get locked out of the US, and we won't come like pull you out or get you out. So I finished my school contract, and it just made sense to come home so that I wouldn't be stuck in one place or stuck out of the other in case it got worse.
Yeah.
So
we're sorry.
So, I'm sorry to hear that. What was it like having to balance those things, like your immediate family member, the pressure to come back, and then also the pressure sort of that you're getting these daily reminders? It's like, it's now or never, you need to go. And like, how'd you get a plane ticket? Seems like a horrible stress to add on top of a pandemic.
It really, really was. It was about like 2.5 weeks of just like sad, scared phone calls home and being like, but I'm safer here, but you're not safe there, and I don't want to get locked in and out. But it was a lot of just calling my family and being like, I should be home, right? And they're like, you really should, in case something happens. And they're like, we know you're safer over there. We know you have a job and a place and like a life over there, but we need you here. So getting a plane ticket was also a huge thing. There were maybe 3 or 4 flights a week leaving from Bangkok, coming back to Texas specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And again, once I bought that ticket, I kept getting emails from them saying, we can cancel at any time, like middle of a global pandemic. It'll be what it is. So it wasn't until like up till that moment where I was like, cool, they didn't cancel. Like I'm on board.
What was the airport like driving up and actually being like, I think I'm gonna be able to get on the plane?
Yeah. So first off, that was wild. So I don't know if you guys have ever been to Bangkok or like, but it's a huge, it's like a massive international airport, like 24/7. There's like thousands of people. Like when I flew in at like 3 a.m. and there were thousands of people. It's huge. I got there and there was maybe 200 people total, like staff and people flying out. There were no cars. There was no traffic. And actually on my taxi right there, the cab driver was like, oh, like, where are you going? Where are you flying? And I was like, oh, I'm going to America. And he was like, ugh, why? I was like, oh, don't know. Like literally the disgust in his voice. He was like, ugh, that seems like a bad idea.
Gosh.
But yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you knew America was not doing so well compared to Thailand. Like, what was the moment when you recognized, like, oh shit, that's a dumpster fire over there, and all my family's over there?
Yeah.
Like for you.
So like towards the end, once I bought my ticket, so Thailand has had less than 60 deaths in their entire country, like total country.
Very impressive.
And just like my county alone that I flew back to has had like thousands, I want to say. And I was like, oh, we are trash. Okay.
Where are you now?
San Antonio.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And Texas has what, like 3 of the worst cities, or we did at some point. I don't know, just comparatively the numbers are terrifying.
How do you feel when Trump kind of promotes how well America is doing by saying we've had only 140,000 deaths?
So I've kind of talked about this with some family, but I feel like America has this like very full of itself kind of mentality that Trump really portrays. Like, we're doing great, we're doing the best. But a lot of the people that I talked to in Thailand were like, why would you go back? Like, clearly your country is not doing well. Your president is an idiot. And like people that I was friends with in Myanmar as well, and these aren't countries that usually comment on what's lacking in the US, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But even my friends in Myanmar were like, your country's on fire. Your president is not doing anything to help your people. We're doing better than you. And so it's just a weird perspective to have all these places be like, your country's trash.
One might even say that it's an interesting outside perspective. Just a thought. Just a thought.
One could say.
One could say. It's crazy though. What is it now that you're like? Now that you're in San Antonio, you've been back for how long? Like a few weeks, I think you said.
No, it's been a little over a month, maybe a month and a half now.
Okay, so you now you're here, got your sea legs back. You're continuing to go through this thing with an immediate family member, and the situation in Texas keeps getting a little more difficult as well, especially coming back to ongoing cries and protests for social justice. I mean, do you regret your decision a little bit, or just what's your mindset now that you're really here back in the US after being abroad?
Yeah. So kind of like I mentioned before, like the mentality over there of like the community versus like a very American individualistic mentality.
Mm-hmm.
As an individual, I'm not entirely happy that I'm back, but thinking about like my family, my community, the people who mean something to me, I know there's no place that I should be other than home right now. But no, like my selfishness is like, I would really love to go back to a country that's got their lives together. But maybe in the future.
But I think even having your perspective and your experiences in your community, like you can share that now, you know, you can talk to people about what you've experienced and how it's different. So that's also a benefit for your community to see the other perspective.
Mm-hmm. Definitely a lot of conversations with family at home being like, hey, I know you want to do that, but you have kids and grandkids, like take that into consideration. It's not just you. And they're like, I know, but
I want to say, like, you know, it's silly, and I'm fascinated just because, you know, the technology you're describing seems like something out of Star Trek. It just sounds so silly, but then I process in my head. I'm like, there's literally technology that's like tubes. You know, I'm talking about the tubes that exists in the world that countries have implemented that would make a world of difference that I can't even imagine. And that's weird to process, if that makes sense. And a side note to what you just said, last night, me and Jessica, we needed a little treat. Okay. We need a little treat. So we did a curbside pickup ice cream Lick here. Shout out Lick. Sponsor us. But there were these 4 teens that were sitting in front of the Lick, you know, just on a little bench, no masks, just the 4 of them huddled up together right by the entrance. And what was worse is they had masks in their hands. It drove me so crazy. It enraged it. It ruined the ice cream for me.
Was there any place that they might have breathed on your ice cream?
I watched the ice cream delivery on the whole way out, and then I ate it angrily. But case in point,
get your masks.
Yeah, I felt like just an old man, get off my lawn. But case in point, your experience just has been totally different, where people are very proactive for the community. Just put on a mask, man. Just put on a mask. It's a low ask.
They also had this one cute thing at a restaurant when they did open up. Super low tech, doesn't require anything. But the restaurant's mascot was like a dragon. And so in order to maintain social distancing, they made a giant ass like cardboard dragon, and they sat them in every other seat. So you could sit and eat your meal next to like a little dragon and
That's really
be
cute.
6 feet from the next person. It was so cute and so smart.
Yeah, it's like way to promote your brand in a creative way, and also like to keep people apart, because you know people are not gonna stay apart unless you make them.
Yeah.
Right.
They're just so smart. They're so smart.
So looking forward now, what are your next steps? I mean, are you're I assume you're in San Antonio for the foreseeable future. You know,
Mhm.
you're obviously your immediate family member thing is probably going to has driven the majority of your decisions to this point. So I imagine that'll continue to do so. But where do you think you'll be? I mean, are you working? Do you think you'll maybe try to head back as soon as you can, or?
So finding a job has been super difficult unless you're willing to take those super high risk positions right now. But yeah, just trying to find insurance in case things do get wild. But other than that, no, just really trying to be there for that family member, like
Mhm.
stay healthy so that if something happens, I can take care of them and can be
Right.
there for doctor's appointments and treatments and things like that. But that's honestly my main priority. And ideally, they heal and things are fine and everything becomes great in a year, and then I gallivant off about the world again to a new country.
Do you actually are you looking for teaching jobs right now?
To teach in schools here? No.
Would you consider that a job?
I refuse to be in education right now. Not with the way things are going.
Is it because you don't trust the decision makers in Texas to like make what the right choice for the community?
I don't. They actually just had a caravan protest here, the San Antonio teachers. I don't.
To
I
get
think they.
back into schools? To get back into schools?
No, to stop from going immediately into in-person classes. But no, I wouldn't work in education here. Not during the pandemic.
What do you have? You know, again, your perspective over there, teaching in a country that got their pandy life relatively in order. What advice do you have for teachers here? I mean, you're obviously again, you don't want to go to in person, but I'm intrigued by creating like earlier we talked about creating an online curriculum for like a 2-year-old. That seems tough, man. You know.
Yeah, so I think again with Thailand, they're just so proactive. They had maybe 2 new cases, and there were talks through the education department of shutting down again. So
Mhm.
they were already, again, with just 2 new cases, they were talking what will happen if we have to shut down again, and just like my friend who is out there, who is still a teacher, like the measures that they're taking, despite the fact that they've had maybe I'm going to say this wrong, maybe 2,000, 3,000 cases total. The precautions are wild. They have like little screening temperatures. They check their temperatures daily. There's masks, there's face shields, and they're being so overprotective for a little. And I think the states could learn from that and just be overly cautious in that sense. And being overly cautious is not sending your kids to school right now if you have that luxury.
Did you see that picture of the reopening? I think it was Virginia. I don't know, but there was like where
Georgia?
in Georgia. Did you see that picture?
No.
It was like it was a middle school, high school kids. What was it, Natalie?
I'm not sure. It was either middle school or high school, but she took a picture of a hallway. Oh my God. And they were just crowded, no masks.
Exactly. Teachers are heroes right now. There's like, it's ridiculous.
Here on the opposite side of the argument, a nurse posted a tweet, I believe, and she said, teachers are essential workers, just like nurses. They have to mask up and they have to go to work because the fabric of our society is going to crumble if schools aren't open, which is a pretty fair statement. Like, what would you say to that, nurse?
I guess I can understand that perspective because, yes, what are you going to do with like millions of children out of school, especially young ones who can't, like the online platform isn't for them, but are the schools going to take the proper precautions? Are they going to socially distance? Are they going to provide that gear? Like, we know how much teachers spend out of pocket for tissues and sanitizer and markers. Is the school going to buy all of that for them, like the hospital provides for medical staff? Like, I don't see the school districts offering up these things. It's like, hey, teachers, figure it out.
Yeah. Full disclosure, I would say the three of us have some teaching in our backgrounds and our professional. We've dabbled. So I would say the three of us are skew pro teacher, which is, seems like a hot take these days, but we've been there, and the stuff teachers do.
Home.
Say what?
And teachers staying home also.
I think so, yeah. Unless some real drastic different plans come up. I don't know. I followed AISD here. Not envy. What's the? Not pity either. I want to say I'm glad that I don't have a child right now. It seems like so much stress and so much more pressure. I can barely handle it on my own.
Yeah.
There was this moment during this pandemic when one of my plants got spider mites. And the first thing that I had to do was to distance it from all of my other plants. And then I had to go in and treat each individual plant. And it was so much work. So I can only imagine like having one of my children get coronavirus. And, I couldn't imagine.
Did the plant survive or?
Yes.
That's good. That's good.
Oh,
I like the plant.
A big one.
Well, wrapping up, I gotta ask, did you get to see Bun Bun one more time before you left, or, oh no?
We had one video chat after he left because his mom said he was crying because he missed school. And that was the last I saw him. My school wouldn't let me say like a goodbye because it would affect enrollment for the next year. So my sweet is gone forever.
We'll figure out a way to reunite you and Bun Bun somehow. Poor Bun Bun. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us? Any warnings?
Final closing.
Put on a mask.
That's it. Just wear a mask.
Yeah.
Don't hold it.
Especially not when you're at Lick Ice Cream off of Burnett here in Austin, Texas, right next to the main front entrance. Put on a mask. Put on a fucking mask. Yeah. God. Yeah. Well, we're glad you're back, and I would say, on a personal note, different from Pandy, I think you've had a lot of pressure, on top of just pandemic life, but familial stuff. I think you've navigated about as well as you can, and you've stepped up. So you should give yourself some of that credit. That's tough. And also, I also envy your courage. I think I told you this when we chatted before, but I do sincerely mean I envy your courage to like go to another country just alone and do life. It's intimidating to me. I don't have that in me. I wish I did.
It's fun, I promise. You try it once and you're like, which one's next?
That's so fun. Great. Thank you so much, Sarah. We really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. Sarah.
Yeah, dude.
This is fun. This is nice.
Yeah, this was really cool. Bye, y'all.
Bye.